stupid is as stupid does. It's the DigiGods. Please welcome two guys who ran for 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours. They're pretty tired. They think they'll go home now. It's Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Oh, Corey, who enabled you? Who empowered you to bring out your inner Gump? Who hammed you up?
That was brought to you by Lorenzo Raffa. He's not a smart man, but he knows what love is.
Oh, thank you, Lorenzo. That was really good. Corey loves it when you can let him be in character. Anything that allows him to do more than just an intro, to really explore the inner life of the intro. That's always what he prefers. Mark's in the kitchen right now. I'm not sure what he's doing. Mark, what you doing? Okay. We're on. We're on. It's a good thing this is.
I'm defrosting banana bread because I don't have any more ice cream for you because we ate the last of it last week.
Awesome. So I'm going to get banana bread.
Yes, but I think you've had this banana bread before.
That's fine. As long as I got something to munch on. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go through some anime then, because Mark always hates it when we go through anime. This is from All Funimation. We're starting off with some Funimation stuff. Assassination Classroom, Season 2, Part 1. Don't even dare touch this if you're not up to speed on Assassination Classroom. It's one of the weirdest, most bizarre, and unusual anime series I have ever seen. There's this alien that teaches the class. It's very strange. It's extremely unusual. It's just weirdness, and it is uniquely and utterly Japanese in every conceivable way. Somebody thought this up somehow, and they made it into a series. I don't know. But anyway, it's out there, and all you need to know is SAAUSO. Know that acronym. It stands for Special Arms Against Unidentified Slimy Octopus, which might be teaching your children. Assassination Classroom, Season 2, Part 1. We also have Noragami. It's pretty cool stuff. Season 2 of Noragami. This is a limited edition. Oh, and by the way, Assassination Classroom is a Blu-ray DVD combo pack, as many of these often are. Noragami, likewise, is Blu-ray and DVD combo pack, Season 2, limited edition. All of these came out in late February, and Noragami is, modern-day Japanese myth adventure, and it's all about Yato, who is a god, not one of the top gods, but it's he's sort of like on the Hercules level, I guess, of the modern Japanese polytheistic pantheon. And it's just it's all kinds of spectacular adventures set in kind of a mythical modern otherworld. That's good stuff. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for the water. And we have the Mystic Archives of Dantalion, the complete series. This is really quite interesting. This is a little bit like Pokemon for very literary adults. This is about people who have to fight monsters that come to life through literary works, and it's like very like librarian Ghostbusters or something. It's very interesting. I actually find that interesting. So that is the Mystic Archives of Dantalion. Very, very cool animation. Very great artwork. Really rock solid stuff there. And then we also have Ultimate Otaku Teacher, Season 1, Part 2. This is, schoolgirl stuff. I never really much cared for this, but a lot of people absolutely love this. And it just, I guess if you're a schoolgirl in Japan and that's your life and you wear the uniforms and you go through whatever, I guess there's an audience for that. And maybe there are grown men here in the West who fetishize about that. I don't get it. Anyway, Mark, you have some anime there as well that goes to your particular issues with that series, which is going to be a live-action series soon, we should point out.
I have no problem with Ghost in the Shell. Do you have a problem with Ghost in the Shell?
I thought you had a problem with Ghost in the Shell.
No, what I have a problem with is Ghost in the Shell 2. And it's funny because...
Here, microphone.
Oh, sorry. We've been doing this show for how many years now? No, Ghost in the Shell, I can get behind, but Ghost in the Shell 2, it's funny because I remembered reviewing that film at Cannes. And actually I have, and Wade will like seeing this. You guys can't see this. All of my box office reviews in 2004 were filed with the with the letterhead.
Yeah,
Back
look at
when-
that. Sure.
That's right. It's got the
Yeah.
official Can letterhead. Let's see what I wrote in 2004 about Ghost in the Shell 2. I gave it 2 stars out of 5. That can't be good. The long-awaited sequel to the 1995 anime classic Ghost in the Shell. This new offering from writer-director Mao. I'm still getting over my tooth surgery, so my voice and pronunciation will not be that great. Mamori Oshii confuses and bores at the same time. What saves the film from being a complete creative meltdown are the visuals, which are at times absolutely stunning. For reasons best left to the ages, Innocence landed a coveted spot in competition at the 2004 Cannes Film Festival. Upon its North American release, the film will certainly court a very select group of adventurous anime fans. Others need not apply. Look at that. That's what I thought of Ghost in the Shell too. I was like, I remember this movie, but Ghost in the Shell is a masterpiece. People love Ghost in the Shell. It's great. I have no problem with Ghost in the Shell.
Okay, it's the second one that you had a problem with.
It's the second one, which I saw in Cannes, that I have a problem. Now, will we have a problem with the live action version? That, of course, remains to be seen.
Well, a lot of people already do because Scarlett Johansson is not Asian, and that's a pretty big change. Pretty big shift.
That is a pretty big change, but you know what? I think Ghost in the Shell is terrific. It's sci-fi at its most mind-expanding, matrixy, cyberpunky.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it looks spectacular. It's got a great soundtrack, and I just think it's a really cool movie.
This is like the fourth release of this thing too. By the way,
it is. I just think that it's 2 I didn't like.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this has Ultraviolet on it, so there's that. Which I continue, you know, but the future is not going to look like this in 2029. You realize that? Like the future keeps being everything that what we were supposed to. Aren't we now in the year that where we're supposed to be having colonies on Mars and Schwarzenegger is supposed to be like flying up there and going through full body scanners? Wasn't everything is supposed to be happening now?
Yes,
like that?
It turns out that instead of heading towards Ghost in the Shell, we're heading towards Idiocracy.
Yeah, it's very, very true.
We're all doomed.
All right, well, they're both out. Ghost in the Shell 2 and
they
Ghost in
look
the Shell
great.
1.
They're fantastic. Now, of course, you know, this is on Blu-ray, so you got to ask yourself if you do not own any of the other ones. Now, Akira is the one that is.
They're doing Akira too, a live action.
No, but in terms of like ones that you thought I might have had a problem with,
yeah,
Akira I thought was fantastic too until it got a little much at the end.
Yeah,
there's a big blob guy. He comes out. I don't know what's going on, but Ghost in the Shell's terrific.
I got some other interesting stuff from Funimation. This is an amazing series. I mean, a really amazing series. I can't say enough about this. Wolf's Rain it doesn't even look like anime, and that's not me slamming anime. That's just saying that sometimes you find animators in Japan who are willing to push the envelope in ways that they've just never pushed before. And you know, every country has kind of a style. French animation has a style, and American animation obviously has a handful of styles, and there are a few styles in Japan, but by and large, everybody kind of sticks to the anime thing. Now, this is a Blu-ray DVD combo pack of Wolf's Rain, the complete series, and it is just really, really elegant, extremely detailed artwork, very sensitively written, and the idea here is that you have in this sort of mythical world that has entered a post-apocalyptic phase, and there are now wolves roaming the land when they never should have, and this woman known as the Flower Maiden comes to life, and it is then this mythical adventure that transpires thereafter. I don't want to say that it's a little like Clan of the Cave Bear, because it sounds like it, but it kind of is in some ways, but it's just really poetic and mystical and just incredibly well animated. So that is Wolf's Rain. Really, really highly recommended. Garo, Crimson Moon, Season 2, Part 1. Great action. Like many of these things, sort of nonsensical story. I don't really understand the whole thing about the golden armor and the alchemist, and it gets into all of that stuff that really kind of gives me a headache, and it requires way too much concentration. But I'll tell you, the animation's great, the action is great, and it's very, very solidly done. So this is top-notch stuff as well. Garo Crimson Moon, Season 2, Part 1, if you've been following it. If you have not been following it, you will be like I, and you will be totally enchanted by the animation and confused by everything else. Showman's Sample. You gotta love them. They got big eyes. They're girls. This is more titillation. This is PG-rated titillation is what it is. Girl school stuff. It's another one of those series. There's a lot of these, and the girl school stuff, even the boys school stuff, the school stuff. It's a whole subgenre of anime that's never really sunk in with me. But in any case, so Showman Sample is out there, also in a Blu-ray DVD combo pack. And then lastly, Nichiju, My Ordinary Life. And this is that anime style where everything is a little rougher and people don't have noses and their mouths get really, really big, and the animation is intentionally very, very sketchy and raw. And they usually do this because it's supposed to be funny. That's like your cue that this is a comedy. And it's more student stuff. It's just silly slapstick with kids and their antics, and it feels like somebody did a Japanese version of Charlie Brown and the Gang if they were 10 years older and on LSD. How does that sound? Is that a good description?
Well, you really lost me at have no nose.
Yeah. Anyway, this is for the people that do Lucky Star. If you know it, it's almost exactly the same kind of deal. So. Okay, Mark, let's talk about something.
Pop music? Pop music?
No. Let's talk about a movie that won an Oscar.
Fences. Here's the thing
the
with
show.
Fences.
The show was great. I mean, she was right out of the gate. Excuse me. She was. I mean, the first award of the evening. They always give out these supporting actor awards before, earlier in the evening. First award of the evening was Mahershala Ali. Beautiful, right? He got us off to a good start. And then when she came on about 40 minutes later?
Right.
Viola Davis. And it was just like, it was so moving. And everybody ripped on her because she said one thing that people were like, what are you kidding? Like she said, I'm so glad I became an artist because we're the only profession that celebrates life. And everybody pounced on her for that. It's like, look, the lady's having her moment. I know what she means. I get it. What she was talking about is we're the only profession where you get to experience other people's lives, where you step into someone else's life and experience.
The fact
Good
that
grief, nobody understood that.
The fact that she didn't say it just like that means that she hates America. That's what that means. So here's the thing with Fences. People, first of all, everyone knows what I think of Denzel Washington. He's the greatest of all time. I can watch him do anything. I thought
he'd get Best Actor.
There was a chance there.
I really did. I really did. I didn't think they'd go with Casey. That's how I know. That was the moment when I probably should have known that.
The younger folks.
We promised we weren't going to talk about Oscars.
No, but last year.
There was
an influx of younger, more diverse.
That's when I
members.
knew. That's when I knew. I should have known that Moonlight was going to upset, because if they were not going to let the Casey Affleck backstory tarnish his Oscar, if they are not so enamored of Denzel, that means there's a younger segment that is all about not being attached to the past. Because in any other year, Denzel would have won this.
Well, don't forget, Casey Affleck is 41 years old. Denzel's like 60 something.
Yeah.
So the new guard is going to give it a Casey. The influx of younger voters.
Yes.
People knocked Fences because they thought that Denzel, who also directed this, they thought that he did not expand it enough beyond its stage roots. And I don't really accept that criticism, because to me, first of all, why expand it when it's already perfect the way it is? August Wilson's, Pulitzer Prize winning, iconic classic play. And also, when you think about it, a very, very small percentage of people in the world have seen the play.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do the movie, you might as well, he's probably thinking, if you're going to do the movie, considering that 99.9% of the world has not seen this play, you might as well give it to them exactly as August Wilson would have wanted to see it, which is in a more theatrical proscenium arch form. Now, there's some stuff in the backyard, and there's plenty of stuff in the house. So he expands it a little bit, and there's some exteriors on a couple of other streets, including
Sure.
the opening shot where he's on the garbage truck
Yeah.
and going down the street, which really just establishes the time and the place. But otherwise, I think he had no responsibility to expand this and have conversations that won
I
a
agree.
Pulitzer Prize in the house suddenly be had in a bar
Yeah.
or in a barber shop
Yeah.
or at Toys R Us. It just, you know what? It's perfect the way it is. So I understand and can justify Washington's choice.
Yeah. Here's how I look at this. Fences is it is almost a companion stage play to Death of a Salesman. If you want to get a complete snapshot of the what it means to be an American father from that particular period, let's say, kind of pre-World War II, to be like Depression era to just after World War II, that period, right? Like, let's say 30s, 40s, early 50s. If you want to understand what it meant to be an American father during that very, very turbulent, tumultuous period, you get that snapshot watching Death of a Salesman and Fences. One, and not just because it's a black father and a white father, but there's also one is a salesman, one's a garbage man. They represent different strata in society, different kinds of fathers. They relate to their children and their families in different ways. But it gives you a very, very a more perfect sense of that period. And I think you do the material justice by honoring it and doing it faithfully. What I like about Fences more than anything else is that if you've seen it performed on stage, particularly if you've seen the James Earl Jones interpolation, which was the original Broadway performance, James Earl Jones plays it very differently. James Earl Jones had a really, really bad relationship with his father, who abandoned the family at a young age. Took him a long time to reconcile with his father. A lot of anger. And James Earl Jones is playing his father on stage with a lot of vinegar. And Denzel plays a more redemptive, sympathetic version of that character. He changes the character. He finds someone in that character without changing the words. He found inside August Wilson's words a different way to play the character, which is astonishing to me. And then he willed this movie to life as producer and director and actor in just a beautiful, classic, old-fashioned way. I think it's really it's one of the best adaptations of a classic stage play ever put on a film.
And the Blu-ray has, let's see what the Blu-ray has on it. It has special features, got a couple featurettes that, they're pretty standard issue. Really, the star here is the film.
Yeah.
Fences, definitely rent it. Definitely rent it. It's a great piece of, again, it's a great bookend, as Wade says, with Death of a Salesman. You've got, the father's son. You've got the American dream and how it's played out by these two different fathers. And it's good stuff. So Fences, highly recommended.
So you've got a rather silly movie here called Solace with Anthony Hopkins and Colin Farrell and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. This is a silly movie, and it's astonishing that all three of these very fine actors did this. It really makes no sense. This is from Lionsgate Premiere, which is like a genre line of Lionsgate. They go straight to DVD, straight to video. And those are three really fine actors who should not be doing straight-to-video stuff, at least not together.
Well, I remember when this came out, I was dating my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right? So my ex-girlfriend was Anthony Hopkins' personal trainer.
Oh, that's right.
Right? Remember her?
Yeah.
So I met Anthony Hopkins at the Thor Dark World premiere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's where he walks out. He says, "Hello, Mark, Tony."
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I can call him Tony. Fantastic. He said, "Hello, Mark, Tony." He said, "Hello, Mark, Tony." I'm calling him Tony. And then I met him again, whatever. And so anyway, so she had said, she said, "Oh, the next, Anthony's next movie is called Solace." She was Mexican. So she goes, "Solace." And I will invite you to the premiere of Solace when it comes out. It'll be so exciting. Well, of course, Solace winds up being this kind of not really dumped out, but
this is made by Grindstone. Now, the people over at Grindstone, Grindstone is a company that's very much built on the Avi Lerner model of just pack some stars into a piece of junk and then you'll get the money and you make your money foreign, right? It's the Avi Lerner model, and Grindstone's doing a lot of that. And we've talked about the Steven Seagal movies a few weeks ago. We had two of them in 2 weeks. It was just junk, and he's got the shoe polish in the hair. Same company. Grindstone makes those, and other companies release them, usually Lionsgate. So this is a Blu-ray DVD. Blu-ray and ultraviolet. No DVD, Blu-ray and ultraviolet only on this. But the idea is it's kind of Anthony Hopkins, semi doing the flip side of Silence of the Lambs. It's a psychic chasing a serial killer, and in this case, it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan is the FBI agent, and Anthony Hopkins is the psychic, and yada yada yada.
By the way, this movie is not terrible.
It's not terrible.
It's just not worthy of the people in it.
Oh, not even close. No, it's very. It's not. It's adequately done. It's professionally done. It has production value, but it's not believable. It's a rather silly story. Very silly story.
As opposed to Ghost in the Shell?
Yes, which is
a documentary.
It's my life. It's what I've been living.
Are you the ghost or the shell in this?
I'm the shell. I'm always the shell. You're the ghost.
I'm the in the.
Yeah. Actually, hold on here. We're gonna get to television next. But our last two movies are they're okay. One of them is a Walmart exclusive. You'll only find this at Walmart. It's called Country Crush. It's a country musical. This has a bunch of people in it I have never heard of before. Completely unfamiliar with any of these people, but they're all very, very attractive, and they look like they should all have CW shows. And it's this is kind of like what was the musical with John Travolta as the guy that teaches kids how to sing? It was kind of a country thing. You remember that?
Yeah, sure.
What was that? What was that called?
You're gonna make me Google it, aren't you?
Nah, forget it. Anyway, this is kind of like that. That's what it reminded me of. Nancy is an aspiring singer struggling to launch her country music career. That's all you need to know. Anyway, it's just they throw a kind of an Iraq War angle into this as well, just to try to make it feel a little more real. It doesn't really work. It's just silly, but it's innocuous for the most part. It's called Country Crush, a country musical. And then we have RoboDog Airborne. This is the stupidest thing ever created, and it has the family-approved seal of approval on it. This is utterly insane. It's about a robot dog. That's all it is.
Yay!
It's a robot dog.
Doggy.
And the effects are ridiculous, and the acting and the story is ridiculous. And you know who made this, Mark? You know what production company is responsible for this? Grindstone. Once again, they crank them out. I don't know where they get their money. I really don't. All right, Mark, let's move into television. We have two major box sets this week.
We do. We have Star Trek Voyager. This thing ran from like 1995 to 2001. This whole thing really is just a bunch of packaged DVD sets.
Not Blu-ray.
Not Blu-ray. There's this thing that's 168 episodes of this goddamn thing. So, I mean, Star Trek, the original, was fine. Next Generation captured lightning in a bottle twice in some miraculous way. Deep Space Nine, you're like, okay, I'll buy this. Voyager, you're like, okay, I'm struggling to stay in this thing. You know what? Yeah, and of course, you can go online.
I liked her as Captain Janeway. I have to say that. I really thought Kate Mulgrew kind of caught a thing. It was a very Kirk-like performance. There was somewhere, I mean, she got it. She had watched, Shatner, and she had watched Patrick Stewart, and she kind of understood the vibe, the whole Starship vibe that you're supposed to.
Authority with a little bit of a wink, a little bit of humor.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And having a female captain was a nice thing, especially, remember the end of Turnabout Intruder, the very last episode of Star Trek, the third season,
sure.
Where, it's like, you don't let women be captains. And she, you did the body switching thing with Kirk, and people who knew the show had been canceled were watching it and thinking, what? Anyway.
Have you seen the video of, Kate Mulgrew was not the first, was not originally cast.
Right.
It was Genevieve Bujold.
Yes.
And there is video, and I don't know if you've seen it, there is video of her. They have footage of her, shot footage. She was cast in costume shooting the show.
Really?
And then she was fired.
Have not seen it. Why was she fired?
Okay, if you watch the video, you will know why she was fired.
Oh, really?
Completely miscast.
Really?
Lost, out of her element, not the right casting. She does not have that. She does not have the spark. Kate Mulgrew had that spark, as you say.
Did. Yeah.
So you should check out the video of Genevieve Bujold as Captain, whatever her name was, because it's out there. Okay. And you can see why they got rid of her. Anyway, Voyager, what it's about. They're 4,000 trillion light years away, and they got to get home. What can I say? The thing, this was to me was the first Star Trek show that never really captured anything. It just sort of was a show that people liked, and that was it.
Yeah,
And then you had Star Trek Enterprise, which really didn't go anywhere.
Well, then they started doing the wrong thing, which is going backwards, which is what they're still doing. Voyager, they got cold feet with Voyager, and they got cold feet for the wrong reason. They got cold feet about going forward into the future, because without Gene Roddenberry sort of telling you what the future is going to be in his big magnanimous brain, everybody was afraid to speculate. They're afraid to so we backtrack. We go into the past. We go back to Kirk. We go back to, before Kirk. We go back to things where we sort of have a grammar in the Star Trek universe already, a pre-existing grammar and pre-existing concepts that we can draw on, as opposed to having to invent new ones going forward and risking being compared to what Roddenberry would have done. Those comparisons come anyway. Voyager needed a better writing staff. It's a good premise. It was a good cast. It was a good general framework for a series. I just don't think the writing staff was up to it. I think if they had better writers, perhaps done like the original series and gotten major science fiction writers, they would have nailed it.
And all these guys have done almost nothing. Tim Russ, the guy just shows up on Star Trek fan movies. Garrett Wang, Jerry Ryan. Obviously Kate Mulgrew has been terrific. But what's funny with Star Trek is that now Star Trek Discovery has been moved back again.
I know.
It's moved back to early fall on CBS All Access. So that thing, there's a lot of pressure on that thing because the Star Trek movie series with Chris Pine, that thing is way on the bubble.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know if the new regime's going to even want to make that movie anymore.
No, they're not.
Are they going to recast it? Will they just let Star Trek Discovery carry the burden of the franchise?
I'll be honest. I think the idea, look, the two stupidest things that they have done at Paramount in recent years. One is resurrect the Star Trek series in a way that alienates fans solely so they can try to build some kind of a foreign audience for it. It was a dumb. I mean, I give JJ all the credit in the world for giving it the old college try, but it was the wrong direction to go. It's not canon. It's crazy. And to look at that and think, this is our franchise roadmap for the future. Oh, that Indiana Jones thing? Yeah, here, Disney, you can have that. And then in addition to that, they sell off all their Marvel contracts, like Iron Man, and let Disney have all of that as well. It's insane. When you look at the hundreds of millions of dollars in earnings and in participation and in licensing and marketing that Paramount left on the table by getting rid of by giving these things to Disney, it's unbelievable. It's astonishing. And then they kind of bet the farm on Star Trek, which isn't going anywhere, and Mission Impossible, which is kind of on fumes. Doesn't make any sense.
Mission Impossible, I got to say, each new Mission Impossible film where you're thinking to yourself,
it's got to be the last one.
But they're good.
I know.
They're good.
But let me put it this way. Cruise is not going to be starring in Mission Impossible at 65 years old. He's not. Okay? So you're going to be lucky to get 3 more Mission Impossibles out of him. You might get 2, but that's it. Then there's no more. It's done. Anyway, our other box set of the week. What?
Mama's Family.
Yeah, Mama's Family. The Mama's Family Favorites Collection.
Look at that face.
I know.
Look at Vicki Lawrence's face.
This is the Mama's Family Favorites Collection. This is all 6 seasons of Mama's favorite episodes chosen by Mama herself. So, they released the complete series some time ago, and then they started releasing these Mama's favorites from season 1, from season 2, from season 3, 4, 5, 6. And now they've put all of those together in a complete Mama's favorite. So this is basically the kind of the best of the 6 years, so that you don't have to watch all these seasons. If you just want kind of a smattering of stuff that was fun, this is fine. A lot of, all the usual guest stars. Alex Trebek even showed up on this thing. And Vicki Lawrence, for those who don't know, Vicki Lawrence basically selected these. These are all her favorites. 37 episodes from 6 seasons in a nice light box set, although I wish they'd gone with slimline packaging. They want to make it seem like there's more on here than there is. They could have frankly put all of these on 2 discs very easily. Wouldn't have been hard.
So, by the way, when they came to her and they said, Miss Lawrence, we would like to do your favorite episodes of Mama's Family. Do you think she said, "Oh, I love that show. I'd be happy to pick some," or do you think she said, "How much money?"
How much money?
Pay me money, and I will pick a couple of episodes out of a hat.
You got it. All right, 6, season 1 from History Channel. Have you seen this, Mark? Have you watched 6? Have you watched 6?
Never
on
heard
History
of it.
Channel?
Never heard of it.
You serious?
Never heard of it.
It's good.
Swear to God.
It's really good.
What is it?
6 is a series that is basically it's inside SEAL Team 6. It's dramatic, it's fiction, but you're inside the experiences and the missions and the mano a mano and the fist bumping of SEAL Team 6. And it is absolutely spot on real. It feels great. What?
Is there an episode where all they do is fist bump?
Pretty much, yeah.
A very special 6.
Episode 5.
Everybody fist bumps.
Yeah, they do. No, it's really, really great.
Don't make me laugh. My mouth hurts. I
I'm
got
sorry.
stitches in my mouth. Don't make me laugh.
I know what that's like. I had that last year. 8 episodes, 2 discs, and I swear this is going to keep going. It's on Blu-ray and on Ultraviolet. And here's the deal here. This is created by the Broyles team of father and son. William Broyles, who of course co-created China Beach, my all-time favorite television show, and has been an advisor on numerous movies, and who wrote, among other things, the movies like Castaway and Apollo 13. Amazing, legendary screenwriter and a Vietnam veteran. He is producing this. It is his son, David Broyles, who is himself a veteran, a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's basically David Broyles who wrote all these episodes, and it's much more him than it is his father. But he's very much up to what his dad does, and it's real. It's great. It's really, really gritty and tough and honest, and I will take this any day over stuff like Black Hawk Down. It's really, really... it's great. It's pretty terrific. So the missions, the stories, they just resonate. They ring true. And this may be where Weinstein finally makes a little bit of a recovery. They've been been laying people off, and they've had debt problems, and they bungled this Oscar year. They got Lion nominated, but they were betting everything on Michael Keaton being in the running for The Founder. That didn't happen. That got nothing. Got no attention.
They have to buy Miramax back. Buy the library back. Buy Miramax back. Relaunch Miramax.
Totally. It needs to be the new Miramax. But in any case, Weinstein got behind this, and it's really good. They did a very good job. So this is History Channel 6, Season 1, 8 episodes, 2 discs, Blu-ray and Ultraviolet. Definitely worth it.
The complete 4th and 5th seasons of Kendra on Top, which is
a
reality show that extends the fame of Kendra Wilkinson, the former girl next door. I don't understand why this... this is one of those shows that just exists because they've got a time slot and they got to fill it with something. So here comes Kendra on Top. By the way, according to the packaging, not a sticker, but printed on the packaging.
Yeah.
Nearly 18 full hours of laughter, excitement, and drama.
Oh, that's fabulous.
So it's good. Anyway, this is garbage. It's Ernest. Now, Jim Varney, who is, I don't know if people remember Ernest anymore.
He's dead.
I mean, we're
He's
talking
gone.
Ernest, when Ernest Goes to Camp was like 1987.
They were originally commercials. He and John Cherry. Okay, if anybody, here's a little backdrop. Jim Varney and what was the guy's name? Cherry. Mark? Is it Mark? Not Mark Cherry?
I have no idea.
No, hold on. Well, anyway.
Don't stop the recording.
Okay. So Varney and his because there's the guy who created Desperate Housewives, who's
John Cherry.
John Cherry. Okay, so Mark Cherry is the Desperate Housewives guy. John Cherry is the cherry on top.
Oh, get it.
Anyway, so John Cherry and Jim Varney were a team back in the 80s, and they were a team that did a lot of television commercials. And what they would do is these commercials would be one shot. I mean, there was like nothing to them. It would basically be, okay, we're going to do a promotion for this auto dealership, and we're going to do it, and then we're going to do one for this auto dealership. And they'd have like 50 or 60 different auto dealerships all over the country, and they would shoot the exact same commercial for them, all as local market commercials. And so Varney would, crawl up on a ladder and say, "Have you gone to..." And he'd do his little hick thing, and then fall off the ladder. All right? Do it again. Next take, and now say the other dealership. And in a weekend, you've knocked off, not a national commercial, you've knocked off like 70 or 80 regional commercials, which can be much more lucrative than a national commercial because you don't have to pay your talent as much, and you make reams of money from all of them. So they got very wealthy off of that. And those commercials were so popular everywhere that Disney said, how about making a movie? Let's make Ernest a movie character. And next thing you know, the thing took off like mad. They made 2 or 3 Ernest movies, and then they went, into they went into straight to video movies, and then there was a series, and heaven knows whatever else. I lost track at a certain point. Yes. So,
by the
carry
way,
on.
speaking of regional car commercials, total coincidence. Yesterday, as I
Yes.
recuperate from my oral surgery, yesterday I watched Used Cars.
So fun.
It is fun.
It's a great movie.
It's long. It's an hour and 50 minutes. That's long for a comedy, but there's a lot of story
good.
there to unravel. So
It's
it's good
good.
stuff.
It's good stuff.
It's funny, and I dipped in and out of the audio commentary because you
So
can never
fun.
get enough of that.
That's so good.
Anyway, It's Vernest is only lasted 13 episodes, but it is now available on DVD. It's one of those things where a little of this goes a long way. You'll watch you'll watch 3 episodes, and then you'll be like, yeah, I think I'll skim the 4th one. I think I'll skim the 5th one. I think I'll skip the 6th one, and that'll be it. 227 was a sitcom. I guess it's a sitcom, right? Yeah, it's about you can call it a sitcom.
Jack
Definitely a
A.
sitcom. It was with Jack A and Marla Gibbs. This is about a family in D.C. They're living in an apartment building. It was one of the.
It was kind of like Good Times for a
It
different
was.
generation.
You know what? It was one of the more popular sitcoms of the 80s, but it wasn't like a phenomenon like you would see later on in the 90s with like Seinfeld.
It launched Jack A, and it gave Marla Gibbs a chance to be something other than the maid on the Jeffersons. That's what it was. It was, they wanted Marla Gibbs. They wanted Marla Gibbs to have a show, and it was Marla Gibbs who launched it, and she, didn't have to be the maid and wisecrack and do all the stuff that she had to do on the Jeffersons, and that was great. She got to be a real actress, and along the way, they launched Jack A, who became incredibly annoying.
Well, season 1 of that is now on DVD. We also have on DVD from Cinemax the first season of Quarry. Now, Quarry is one of those shows that probably slipped under the radar, but it's really not that bad. It's this guy. He's a Marine. He comes back to Tennessee, lives in Memphis. He was in Vietnam in '72. Now he's back, and he's struggling to cope with his experiences during the war. And he's drawn into kind of like these bad dudes who are into killing and corruption. And so it's very much is a parallel for today. As easy as that might seem, it is kind of true. But what I liked about it is that it's kind of like it's a little pulpy. It's dark. It's kind of pulpy. It's a little bit like they had a show called Banshee, Cinemax had a couple years ago, which is pretty good. This is a little bit like Banshee. So... it's well shot. It's very evocative of Memphis, Tennessee in the 70s. So it's good. I think Quarry is one of those kind of under the radar shows that if you check out, you might kind of get drawn into it.
Swanky. And then the last 2 from television before we get into some classic movie stuff. The Americans, 4th season, just before it launches on FX with a new season. People love The Americans. I like it. I think it's good. I think it's a good, solid TV spy show. I don't think it's one of the all-time great special television spy shows. I still have a hard time. Matthew Rhys, I love. I could see Matthew Rhys in absolutely anything. Kerry Russell, I have a very hard time buying her as a spy. But anyway, 4th season of The Americans, and it continues to be a good, solid show. I think they can step it up a little bit, though. I really do. I think they could step it up. So there's that. And then there is True Women, which is a miniseries starring Angelina Jolie, Dana Delaney, and Annabeth Gish. Now, that may tell you that this is not a recent miniseries. In fact, this is 20 years old. And the incredible thing here is that Angelina Jolie has not aged in 20 years. It's really deeply disturbing. I don't quite understand any of this at all, but it's women dealing with all the rigors of frontier life, right from the liberation of Texas through the Civil War and the aftermath, and how they are sort of the backbone of society, and the men did all the fighting, but the women were the ones that really laid down roots and made that period bearable for whoever was living in it. Anyway, so this is True Women, a miniseries that kind of fell off the radar, but might be worth rediscovering, just considering that Angelina Jolie is who she is.
Wade, 1988, Dennis Hopper, late Dennis Hopper, directed a film called Colors. And Colors was because I lived in LA in 1988, and Colors really struck a chord because it stars Sean Penn and Robert Duvall. They are both assigned to the LAPD's gang crime division. Duvall's character was just, called back into service because there's been more gang activity in the city. So Duvall and Sean Penn, they both play cops, but they both kind of hate each other, and so it's all about the Crips and the Bloods. Because back then, now with the ascendancy of rap and hip hop music, everybody knows about gangs, West Coast, East Coast,
Sure,
all gang
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But in
yeah.
1988, it was still Crips and Bloods were kind of scary new words.
Yes.
And Colors is. It's very when you watch it today.
It dates well.
Yes. The filmmaking in it is a little more mainstream than you want to give it credit for, than you want to really admit. But it's rough stuff. It's good.
I have such an interesting opinion on Dennis Hopper's career as a filmmaker because it's a really truncated career. It's a very strange career. If you were to teach a film course on Dennis Hopper as an American auteur, I don't know what conclusions you would draw. He made very few films, and none of them are like anything else. Like, you look at this and you go, really, that's the guy that made Easy Rider? I don't understand. The universe doesn't make sense.
His directing career almost seems like this weird little afterthought that people don't remember.
And it's inconsistent. It's incredibly inconsistent, both artistically and in terms of
like the last movie.
I know, right? It's just very strange. But I'm going to go out on a limb. I think even though Easy Rider is the movie that put him on the map, right, and it's considered landmark in all these ways, but it looks like it was shot by a guy who was just completely out of his mind on drugs at the time. From a level of being a filmmaker who is serving the material and who's being incredibly competent, Colors is a hell of a movie. It really is.
Yeah.
It took a lot of heat at the time, for being overtly commercial and not really kind of addressing the issue of street gangs in a very realistic way, et cetera, et cetera. But it's well acted. Sean Penn and Duvall are terrific. The plot, it's a little bit pedestrian, but I'll tell you, just from a technical standpoint, this is a hell of a well-mounted and put-together movie. I mean, it says Hopper really should have been directing big studio movies long before this, and he should have been getting a lot more work.
So what you're saying is that instead of directing another film, he put on an eye patch and was in Waterworld?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows why that happened? Anyway, no, I'm glad they did this. So shout select with our collector's edition of Colors. Well done, Hopper. Good extras on here too. Quite a lot of extras.
Red Dawn, Wade.
Yeah.
Wolverines. Yeah, you watch this movie today, and of course now the Russians are.
It's better than the remake.
Well, yes.
The remake was terrible,
as most things are. But it's funny because when the remake came out, the Russians, today with Donald Trump and probes and chicanery with the election, whatever, Putin, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, if you watch this today, you're almost circling back to what people felt about the Russians in 1984 when the film first came out.
That's true.
Because between 1980, between the end of the Cold War and 2000, whatever, 10, if you watch, Red Dawn, it doesn't mean that much. It's a bit of a relic.
Yeah.
But now it's starting to take on a little bit more resonance and relevance now that Russia is back being our one of our primary enemies. So this film, it's still a little bit silly, but it's a pretty good action film. And don't forget this thing was written and co-written and directed by John Milius. Now John Milius was one of Hollywood's just original, just cigar chomping. He was one of those.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one new school Spielberg, Lucas guy who kind of got lost in that shuffle.
He did.
Everyone talked about Lucas, and everyone talked about Spielberg, and everyone talked about some of those other guys that came out of UCLA, USC Film School, the 70s, whatever. But Milius, he was the most muscular, brawny, peck and paw-esque guy.
And he co-wrote Apocalypse Now. And he did Lion, not the Lion. What was it with Sean? Lion of the Desert? Was Lion of the Desert?
No, Lion in Winter. No,
not Lion in Winter. I think it was Lion of the Desert.
It was. Hang on, I'm getting there.
The one with Brian Keith is
Wind of the Lion.
Wind of the Lion. Thank you. Brian Keith is Teddy Roosevelt.
And here's the thing. Get this. He also. I don't know why. Because I watched this yesterday. I told you. He also was EP on used cars.
Oh, that's right.
He has an EP on used cars.
I saw John Milius only once in public. And I remember it was the funniest thing in the world. It's when I was an usher at the Man's National Theater, early 1980s, and I think it was we'd just opened Greystoke, and it was being platformed. We were selling out every show every day. It was tremendous. 1,100 seats just being reamed in, every showing for like about a week and a half. It was tremendous. And I remember seeing John Milius kind of roaming around the theater, walking the line, apparently wondering if he should buy a ticket and stand in line with commoners. And the thing that made him stand out to me was he was wearing a headband, like a bandana headband. Oh, no, but not just any bandana headband. No. He was wearing a Rising Sun bandana headband like a Japanese kamikaze pilot would wear right before they plowed their Zero into an American aircraft carrier. That's what he was wearing.
Sounds like something he'd wear.
It was the funniest thing in the world. I just thought, really? Are you really wearing a kamikaze headband just to remind us, like, I don't know that you're John Milius? Amazing.
Anyway, so Shout Select, new version of Red Dawn. If you don't own any of the previous editions, should you upgrade?
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not? It's got to look back at the movie, of course. Patrick Swayze is no longer with us, so they get together a bunch of behind-the-scenes folks, so it's fine. But, yeah, it's Red Dawn.
Beautiful.
The Dawniest.
All right, we got some Twilight Time titles and a couple of Warner Archive titles here. Our Twilight Time releases for the month are great, as they always are. They really pick such interesting stuff. It's like a little mini film festival, I got to be honest. Here's one I'd completely forgotten about. Mark, do you remember Chilly Scenes of Winter? You ever see it?
I mean, 1980, whatever
79.
it was, 79.
Yeah. 1979, Joan Micklin Silver. Where'd she go? Great. I mean, really smart filmmaking, smart writing. It's just too bad. Based on a novel by Anne Beatty, Chilly Scenes of Winter is just a wonderful romantic comedy of the period. It goes right up there with Annie Hall and Goodbye Girl, and all of that kind of Woody Allen, Mazursky stuff that we remember from the 1970s. It's
Unmarried Woman.
Unmarried Woman, exactly. It's that kind of a movie with, in this case, it's John Hurd and Mary Beth Hurt, who are the couple. And it's smart, and it's clever, and it's interesting, and it's true, and it's got great supporting performances. Peter Riegert is in this. Remember Peter Riegert?
I like him.
He's great.
Sure.
It's fantastic. So it's a lot of fun. So that's on Blu-ray from Twilight Time. Looks really, really good. Legendary Kiss of Death is also out. Kiss of Death from 1947. One of the
Peter
ultimate.
Riegert was in Joan Micklin Silver, to me, best film, Crossing Delancey. Remember
Oh,
Crossing
he's
Delancey
terrific.
from 88?
Great. Yes, with
in
Amy
that.
Irving.
With Amy Irving.
Yeah. Yeah, well. Okay, so next up from 1947, The Amazing Kiss of Death, which is one of the all-time great noirs, directed by Henry Hathaway. Really just a tough, gritty, really cool, very smart movie with great performances. Richard Widmark, Victor Mature. It's really, really good stuff. You have to see, Victor Mature may have turned in the best performances of his career in this. He otherwise was not a screen actor. He was just a pretty face that was mostly wooden and leaden and everything. But here he plays a crook who's just trying to let go of all of his ugly past, and he winds up falling into the shadow of a very, very, very terrifyingly freaky, scary psychopath. Played by Richard Widmark, and it is just legendary. Widmark has never been more terrifying, and he forces Victor Mature to be a better actor. It is really, really impressive. Anyway, Hathaway shot it beautifully. Beautiful locations, beautiful photography, fantastic. Edge of Eternity, also on Blu-ray from Twilight Time, and you go to twilightimemovies.com to find these. I would point out twilightimemovies.com. This is not a great film, Edge of Eternity, but it's kind of one of those CinemaScope things that people remember because it was, a film of its time. Directed by Don Siegel, so it's very, very competent. But it is as an action film. Action films of the 50s date fairly poorly by today's standards. They're not covered the same way. They're not quite as intense. So, and Cornell Wilde, not exactly an actor that people necessarily remember, but you know what? It's nicely shot. The CinemaScope is nice, and it's a decent crime thriller in its context. Now, the last one, which we're going to talk about a little bit here, Mark, is this movie on Blu-ray for the first time from Twilight Time. Woody Allen's
Interiors with a Woody Allen audio commentary.
No, Mark's joking. There's only a trailer. There's nothing else on here. But let's. And by the way, that kind of breaks the format for Twilight Time, who usually puts isolated scores on almost all of theirs. But this does not have an isolated score. I guess because they couldn't get Woody to agree to it. But in any case, What do we think of Interiors?
You know, it was a real statement from Woody. It's almost like you can't consider the film divorced from the statement Woody was making in making the film.
Right.
Right. I'm going to be taken seriously now. I don't want to be the funny guy.
Yeah.
You know, I went from Bananas and Take the Money and Run to Annie Hall, which was
Best Picture,
but it's also very funny, but still there was some serious stuff, relationships, to Interiors, which is just kill yourself depressing.
It is Woody's first shot at saying, I'm going to make a straight drama because I really do think that I can be as good as Ingmar Bergman, which he's only done a few times in his career. But this is definitely the one where people sort of sat up in their seats and said, uh-huh.
At the time, I was like, I am just depressed and want to kill myself.
It is such an unusual film because it is so utterly and completely not funny. And it really, coming right kind of butted up against Annie Hall as it was, it kind of threw people for a loop. It really did. But you know what? Here's what I hang on to here. I hang on to the fact that if it were any other filmmaker, I would have brought different expectations to the table, and I probably would have thought that it was a really, really interesting movie. It's only because we let ourselves get bogged down by the baggage of expectations that we associate with Woody, and that's kind of unfair.
But also, don't forget that the guy who directed Take the Money and Run, right? Look how assured this is. Would you think that the guy who directed Take the Money and Run, where the camera's running around, the guy's got a cello in his hand and running down the street, would you think that he could direct something as bleak and assured as this?
No.
You know?
Yeah.
It was a super mature film for a guy who started his career as a bit of a clown.
Yeah. Which is what he wanted to do.
A wonderful, fantastic clown, the best of all, to be one of the best. But
the story basically concerns a family, 3 daughters and these very overbearing parents, played by Geraldine Page and E.G. Marshall. And, Diane Keaton is just terrific here. I mean, she really, really just a completely different turn. Mary Beth Hurt is also wonderful. Really a film of its day, but I still think it's a really solid film. I think it's really good. And I'm glad it's out on Blu-ray finally. People get to discover Interiors and make up their own minds.
Well, from a historical perspective, it deserves to be out, and it's long overdue.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's worth watching. There's
also that great line in Stardust Memories where the aliens say, we prefer your early movies, the early funny ones. Yeah. And the two, before I throw this back to Mark, 2 from the Warner Archive collection, both Blu-rays, long overdue in either case. One is The Boyfriend by Ken Russell with Twiggy, another one of Ken Russell's very few accessible movies before he went completely off the farm. This is 1971 Ken Russell, so yes, it's got a whole kind of fantastical, kitschy style to it, but it's wonderful. It really is wonderful. It's got it's not heavy, it's not leaden, it's not campy per se. It's very much of its day, and it's stylish and colorful. And Twiggy is wonderful. It is, for those who don't know, based on Sandy Wilson's very, very popular stage hit, and it kind of owes a lot to Busby Berkeley. It is kind of an homage to that particular era of musicals. And as Ken Russell was not unaccustomed to doing musicals. He had done kind of the classical musicals, right? He'd done things like Mahler and Listomania. So, I mean, he was still very much in a musical vein in 1971. And that was that period of his filmmaking. I love that Ken Russell period. I think it's really, really good. And then we also have the Yakuza, which I still love and I still think is really, really cool. Even though they the tagline really is inaccurate. The Yakuza, 100 years ago, they were called samurai. It's got nothing to do with it. Yakuza organized crime. They're not the modern samurai. That has nothing to do with it. But in any case, this is
the opposite. Samurai is like the lone warrior who goes out and Yakuza is like a gang.
Yeah, Yakuza is organized crime. Anyway, Sidney Pollack directed this, and with his usual sense of incredible professionalism from a script that features 2 of the most legendary screenwriters of all time, Paul Schrader and Robert Towne. Now, they didn't write it together. Robert Towne rewrote Paul Schrader, but that's a hell of a rewrite. I got to say right there.
It's also an embarrassing rewrite. I'm sorry. I got to rewrite.
You call him up on the phone and you go, dude, I'm so sorry, but they're paying.
Like Chinatown rewriting. I mean, a taxi driver rewriting Chinatown.
But in any case, it's a terrific film, 1975. Story by Leonard Schrader, we should point out.
His sister.
Exactly. But yeah, great script by Paul Schrader and Robert Towne, and terrific direction by Sidney Pollack. Robert Mitchum has never been better. And we should point out Ken Takakura, who plays the Yakuza in this thing, is just phenomenal. Totally owns it. So this is great stuff. It's on Blu-ray finally. Looks terrific. Bravo to Warner Archive.
Bravo to Criterion for their release of 45 Years from Andrew Hay. This is just look.
I like this a lot less than everybody else, but I'm glad Criterion handled it because they do it better than anybody else.
It's true. I am loath to recommend a story that stars two people in their 70s or, and it's just a sober drama with people. But yet this film, here's the thing, this film, it's so terrific. It's about these small moments where silence is just as deafening as, as the biggest proclamations, screamed from the sky. It's just superb. And Charlotte Rampling, who received her first Oscar nomination for this, plays a woman. She's married to Tom Courtenay, and they've been married for 45 years. And then something comes up in his past life that she discovers that just creates a little bit of a sliver in her perception of him, and how it allows her to actually go back and revisit the years that they were married with different eyes, different tragic eyes.
It's a great idea. I just don't like Andrew Haigh as a director. I really don't. I just find that he's way too tamped down and tepid and doesn't really. I'd like to see him get a little more oomph in his step. This movie just kind of lays there, and it's beautifully acted. I mean, it's fantastically well acted, but it just doesn't have enough oomph for me. Well,
but what I liked about it is that it was not it was unsentimental.
True.
It does not go for the big moments of
That's
oh
true.
my God, I can't believe you did this.
Yeah.
It's just spare and unsentimental and very inward looking and very understated. And that final shot, it was just devastating. So if you want to take a look at a film that, yes, it's, it stars old people being married for 45 years, but you get a real masterclass in understatement,
True.
You in the last couple of years, you cannot do much better than 45 years.
I agree. Just from the performances alone, I just want to say that. That's my appreciation of the film.
So the good folks at Mill Creek are trying to take advantage of Stranger Things by coming up with a 11 DVD collection that they're calling Strange Things, with a cover art that looks like Stranger Things and a title that's called Strange Things. But don't be fooled. It's just a bunch of crap that they put together into a DVD set. And normally we like Mill Creek. We like them, but come on, guys. So here are the films. Pulse, Space Hunter. Space Hunter, that's one of the... Okay, it's got a couple films that of general note. First of all, it has Krull. Now, Krull just came out, right? Didn't Krull just came out on Blu-ray?
Yeah, just not too long ago, yeah.
So you have Krull and Space Hunter. Now, Krull and Space Hunter are the two that, okay, they're notable. I get that. There's also Pulse. There's My Mom's a Werewolf, The Hearse, Lurkers, Slipstream, which co-stars the late Bill Paxton and Mark Hamill, Mutant, Warriors of the Wasteland, Alien Contamination, and Eternal Evil. You really got to want to bang for your buck if you want to buy this thing. I'll only say that for fans who know what Krull is, they probably already bought the recent Krull Blu-ray. Space Hunter, I get it. That's kind of a culty, fun thing from back in the day. The other films are just not very good. So, if they're trying to take advantage of the popularity of Stranger Things, A, you should have released this months ago. And B, you could have tried to pick films that at least were referenced in the miniseries or had more of a connection to the series. But you know what? Nice try, Mill Creek.
And then we've got the last handful of classic movie titles here. This one is DVD only, not on Blu-ray. I assume because someone else has purchased the Blu-ray rights or retained them. But this is The Last Best Year, with two performances that I think are absolutely first-rate. This is from 1990, and I have to say it is really, really tough, especially in the wake of her recent passing, to watch how good Mary Tyler Moore is. This is Mary Tyler Moore and Bernadette Peters, and they're both terrific. Bernadette Peters is a woman who finds that she is dying, and she goes to see her doctor, played by Brian Bedford, who makes a very interesting introduction to a psychologist to help her deal with her diagnosis. And that psychologist is Mary Tyler Moore. And then that's the movie. It's that relationship. And it is watching two wonderful actresses. But gosh, I'll tell you, watching Mary Tyler Moore, I just start to cry because it's just, she's just like an all-American treasure. And the fact that it's on DVD makes me think a Blu-ray is probably in the offing from someone else, or perhaps from Olive if the deal is different. But in any case, so that is out there for those who want to see it right now, The Last Best Year. And then also on Blu-ray, Evelyn, with Pierce Brosnan, one of his better performances. This is a real tearjerker, directed by Bruce Beresford with all of his aplomb. It is very sentimental. This is an Irish film about a very, very sad story that took place in 1955, where a father, played by Pierce Brosnan, loses his wife walks out on the family, and he finds himself now fighting a very strange part of Irish law that says that he cannot continue to hold custody of his children. So in any case, it winds up being a big, courtroom thing, and actors love those courtroom drama moments when they get to really just lay it on the line and lay it on thick. In any case, one of Bruce Beresford's more underrated films. This is from 2002, and definitely Pierce Brosnan's one of his best dramatic performances. One of my all-time favorite movies, No Retreat, No Surrender. Mark, this is so amazing. This was the first time American audiences got a glimpse of Jean-Claude Van Damme. This is a martial arts film that basically rips off everything from Rocky IV and The Karate Kid to some degree. Jean-Claude Van Damme makes his debut here as a Russian, I should point out. And it's all about this kid who is kind of being mentored by the ghost of Bruce Lee, which is hysterically cheesy. And in any case, my favorite part of this movie is where Jean-Claude Van Damme reacts to the word Russian as if it's an insult. You Russian. And he gets angry. He gets mad that somebody called him a Russian, even though that's what he is. It's hysterical.
It was the way he said it that angered him.
Oh, it's so funny. In any case, the great novelty of this film is it's directed by Corey Yun, who is the same Corey Yun who is one of the little brothers that came up through the system with Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan. They all trained together. They were all kids together. And Corey Yun became famous as a director, directing almost all of Jet Li's very early hits. So, including The Legend of Fong Sayok 1 and 2. So Corey Yun made his American debut, never directed another American movie. And then lastly, before I turn it over to you and we start wrapping this up, is Aria, 30th Anniversary Edition. Did you ever see Aria when it came out 30 years ago?
No, I did not.
What a weird movie. So here's what they did. They went to 10 noteworthy directors and they said, why don't you let's do an experiment. We're going to just have 10 directors pick a piece of opera music that they love and just imagine some visual kind of story around it and shoot that. Just shoot it, whatever you want. Just pick a great piece of music. You got to stick to this particular catalog because RCA is working with us, but pick something from the RCA catalog and a nice piece of opera music and then just shoot the daylights out of it. That's what they did. Some of it's better than others. It's interesting. It's uneven. It's always engaging because it moves pretty quickly. And here are the 10 directors. Robert Altman, Bruce Beresford, Bill Bryden, who doesn't do anything anymore, Jean-Luc Godard, Derek Jarman, who of course has passed, Frank Rodham, Nicholas Roeg, Ken Russell, Charles Sturridge, and Julian Temple. Now, Nicholas Roeg, Ken Russell, and Julian Temple and Jean-Luc Godard alone make this worth watching. Those four are just completely off the hook. Charles Sturridge, Robert Altman, and Bruce Beresford kind of hold it down, and then everybody else is sort of along for the ride. So there it is, 10 directors, 10 dramatic interpretations of great operatic arias.
Wade, Bright Lights, which is a documentary on HBO about the relationship between Carrie Fisher and her mother, Debbie Reynolds. This thing played the Cannes Film Festival in May of last year. And, of course, by the end of the year, they would both be dead, tragically, one day apart. Just absolutely a tragic, tragic story. And so this thing wound up getting pushed out in January, and now it is finally on DVD, courtesy of HBO Documentary Films. This thing obviously you're watching this with different eyes now that they both passed away, but it's just terrific. It was co-directed by Fisher Stevens and either his wife or his girlfriend, Alexis Bloom. And so it played the festival circuit, was quite well received, and then 6 months later they were dead. and it's just so really this thing takes on a whole new dimension. It is so sad now to just read about their very complicated relationship. The fact that that Debbie Reynolds really wanted Carrie Fisher to be a singer. They were unbreakable. They were an unbreakable pair. Reynolds, her performance was her passion. She did not want to retire, and she passed that passion along to Carrie Fisher, of course, along with Carrie's father. And it's just terrific. You learn about how Carrie Fisher
upsetting losing both of them.
Carrie Fisher had a little bit of a problem, wrapping her head around the Star Wars phenomenon. And that Fisher's mental health was always a bit of an issue for Debbie Reynolds, always just rooting for her and helping her out as best she can. So Bright Lights is a good documentary that has now become a very melancholy, sad, tragic documentary thanks to the events that happened since it was made. So I would definitely check out Bright Lights or watch her on HBO.
4 docs from PBS that are really standouts this month. The first one is The Race Underground. This is an amazing documentary from American Experience that talks about, is basically all about the transportation and how Boston was the city that with all of the as people flocked to the cities at the turn of the century and the Industrial Revolution and everything, and public transportation became this really pressing need, is about how Boston created America's first subway. I did not know that. Did you know that? Boston's the first American subway. Not Manhattan. It was Boston.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
So anyway, it's
with the Boston subway, it's like the thing with the New York subway is that it's mostly, not all of it obviously, but underground, like deep underground.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of the Boston subway is
trolleys and
whatnot. Yeah.
So in any case, this is about that, and it is a fascinating story. Also from American Experience is Oklahoma City, which is all about the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, Timothy McVeigh, and the whole story that goes around that. And that is a chilling story with many details that I'm sure you do not know. Then there's also City in the Sky, which is a rather extraordinary BBC documentary that wound up with PBS that is all about what goes on to actually make it possible for our current gigantic global network of airlines and air flight, which is just, we're so dependent on it. What makes that work? We take it for granted. We don't realize just all the engineering and the planning and everything that goes into it. It's just tremendous. And then lastly, another American Experience documentary, Rachel Carson, who is really not a household name unless you are extremely well schooled in the history of the environmental movement. And Rachel Carson kind of was the instigating figure in a lot of that. In 1962, she wrote a book called Silent Spring, which was the first kind of cautionary warning about pesticides, saying, I get it, they kill bugs, but they might also possibly kill you. And that started a real kind of national conversation about whether or not the things that we're doing to our food and to our environment, presumably for our good, are necessarily for our good. And anyway, really, really a fascinating woman with a tragic life and some really interesting twists and turns. This is a tremendous documentary. They always do an amazing job. The American Experience just has some of the best documentary editors and writers and filmmakers in the business, and this is one of the best.
Wait, there's a documentary that you got to see called The C Word. You got to see called The C Word, narrated by Morgan Freeman. No, The C Word, that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about cancer, and this documentary takes it from an interesting angle, and it does it with humor and heart and a lot of personal stories. It's all about the industry that keeps people sick and the health insurance industry that is more interested in profits than it is creating cures.
Like $7,000 dental work?
Oh, it's the worst. $7,000 to get an implant. Actually, you know what? Here's the bill.
Oh, really?
This is the bill, I swear to God. Okay, let's see. Sinus augment vertical approach, $3,000. Now, here's the thing. The surgical implant itself was only $2,234. $600 was the implant maintenance procedure. $413 was the bone graft, and $350 was the Emodagain. Oh, the Emodagain. You know what? I asked for gas.
There you
Because I'm a
go.
wimp, I asked for gas.
Of course you did.
Now that $450 is worth it because I'm a coward. Anyway, $7,000. Anyway, that does not take away from the importance of the C Word, a terrific documentary that will really get you angry over the idea that as the book says, cancer is the emperor of all maladies.
Yeah.
And we are finally getting to the place where there will never be a silver bullet, a magic bullet to cure cancer. But if we can do those gene therapies and whatnot, we can finally cure this thing.
And so that we don't go out on an unbelievably depressing note, 2 foreign language films to put on your map today. The first one is Canoa, A Shameful Memory, which is this is a Criterion release of a movie that I had never heard of. From 1976, really an interesting film. I can't say I like it particularly, but it has an interesting introduction from Guillermo del Toro that kind of puts it in context. Directed by Felipe Casals. It's a political film from 1976, which is all about an actual incident where some students were attacked by a mob in a village because they'd been incited, because a priest had incited the mob, telling them that these students were communist revolutionaries. It very much about the political climate in Mexico in the 1970s. And it's shot in a really interesting way, very much of the era, but also really kind of, very kind of cinema verite style. And I don't think the movie quite works, but I understand it in context, especially when you watch the conversation that's also on here between Alfonso Cuarón and Casals. So, you have the intro from Del Toro and the conversation with Cuarón and Casals afterwards. And lastly is Tana, which is a kind of a Romeo and Juliet type story that was Australia's foreign language entry at the Oscars this year. It did not get nominated, but it's an interesting film. Is shot entirely on Vanuatu, where a lot of Malik's The Thin Red Line, I believe, was shot. And it takes place in an Aboriginal tribe on one of these sort of a generic South Pacific island, where a young girl and a boy fall in love, but their love is doomed because he is the chieftain's grandson, and she is supposed to be married off to another tribe to forestall war. And, of course, they run away together, and it becomes kind of a very conventional and sweet romance, but in very much the Romeo and Juliet vein, except that it's set in an Aboriginal culture, in an indigenous culture. So that film is Tana, and that is on Blu-ray. Tana, 2 tribes, 1 love. Kind of a lame tagline, but in any case, it's worth checking out. It's very, very nicely done. It's well done. So with that, we are done, and we will see y'all next week.